Today we're going to have a look at a pen by a brand which I have reviewed before. That is Xezo. Ooh, shiny. Anyway, before we start, something that's relevant, because every time this leads to much consternation. So, Xezo paid me to do an expedited review. And I understand that that can be confusing, because you may think, oh, if they pay you for a review, they must be paying you for a positive review. That's not what an expedited review is. An expedited review means that I pick up this pen and review it within a certain time scale. That is, in this case, 3 weeks. The reason for that is that Xezo wanted to have this review out quickly. Alright? That can happen. Sometimes a company wants a product reviewed quickly, wants to have it published quickly. That can happen. That does not mean that as soon as I get a pen like this and they pay me, all of my objectivity goes out the window. Alright? I give this the exact same treatment I normally would. I just do it faster. Usually I would spend a certain amount of time. At some point I pick up the pen and I shoot the review. Now I do it within a time frame of 3 weeks. That's all. So I'm still going to do the positive and negatives. I know that for some people this is very offensive and they, it rubs them the wrong way. That's okay. That's fine. I just want to explain this once again. This is what happens. Nothing else. Nothing goes out the window. But if it's really an issue for you, no problem. But then just don't watch it. I've now warned you. This is it. I'm not going to have a full discussion about it. This is it. Alright? Okay. Now that we're all sitting comfortably, let's begin. Xezo. Interesting brand. Last time with the last pen I reviewed of them, there was some discussion about who makes these pens. I'm not sure. There is some sort of anecdotal evidence to suggest that maybe these pens come from the Middle East somewhere. They definitely in a way resemble the Italics pens from mrpen.co.uk. They're not exactly the same pens, they're not exactly the same models, but I do see some commonalities. People are definitely right there. For example, the Greek key details that are on a lot of the Italics pens, also on a lot of these pens. But that's it. That's what I know. Okay? So I'm not really here to extensively discuss the origins of the pen. I will look at the pen as is. A little bit of background. What we're talking about today is the Maestro LeGrand. The reason I'm sort of looking down is that I have some notes, so forgive me for that. But there's a couple of things to say about this. First of all, it's a limited edition pen, 235 pieces, and they came in 4 colors. Each color sort of reflecting a specific mineral. In this case, dioptase. Maybe it's dioptase. Anyway, dioptase. So minerals, this is a blue, sort of blue pen. There's also a red one, there's other colors. Okay, so you can pick the color that you like best. It's a solid brass barrel. So these are fairly heavy pens. And again, same thing with the Italics pens, they're also brass. And these barrels are then treated, they're sort of cut in a specific pattern. I'll show you that in close-up in a second. Guilloché, so cut with a diamond in a specific pattern, and then at least 25 layers of Swiss lacquer are applied. That's a manual process. They're polished by hand after every layer, so there's definitely some work involved there to make sure there are no imperfections, etc. And the result is a very shiny, very smooth pen, and I do really like the way that looks. So it's a long process, and you can sort of see that if that's all manual, that the price would go up a bit, right? Brass fittings on the pen, 18 karat gold plating, and every pen, which something that I really like, every pen is tested by hand before it leaves the company, which is nice. And indeed, the 2 pens I've used by this brand wrote out of the box, which is more than we can say about some pens that cost 5 times as much and that just simply don't write. So all that good so far. Standard nib you get on it is fine, but you can also get them with medium nibs by request. Okay, so that's a bit of a background of the pen. Now you need to see it. Comes in this box, cardboard outer sleeve, and then there is this box. I've shown it on the other, the pen I reviewed by this company too. But if you haven't seen that review, I definitely want to show this again. I like this box. It's kind of cool. It's labeled with their name, of course, but it opens up like this, which I think is kind of fancy. I enjoy it. It's a bit futuristic looking, but I like this. I'm going to just take out the several parts that are in there, because there's a couple of pieces in there. Box, It's sort of padded and kind of soft on the inside, so I think it's a cute box. Little information brochure that didn't fit in the box, but it comes along with the pen on how to fill the pen, and it also has a nice color photograph of one of their, I think, pretty attractive pens in this case on the back. So that's kind of nice. What else is in the box? Obviously the pen. I'll show you that in 1 second. 5 cartridges, nice. You can immediately start writing, and that's a fairly generous amount. I think many pens come with 1 cartridge, sometimes 2, but that's it. So 5, I think that's pretty decent. It comes with a little international warranty card and all that, which I've left sealed. And there is also, that was fairly thoughtful, a little polishing cloth, which is actually not that little. It has quite a decent surface, with a lacquered pen. If you don't want fingerprints, etc., you can use that, and it has the company logo on it. So in all, I think it's a pretty well-rounded package. You got ink, you got a cloth, you have everything you need. Now the pen. You want to see the pen? I know you do. Here we go. The specific model is the Maestro LeGrand, and I'll come back to that in a second. So this is the blue one. As I said, there's 3 more colors, but this one is blue. I'm going to cover the parts of the pen. I tell you what I like about it and what I don't like about it, and then we'll do a writing sample. Okay. The very top of the pen, Xezo logo. I like the X. I think it's kind of cute. We have the barrel, and what you can see here quite nicely, I think, is that guilloche pattern and the lacquer. It's very shiny. It's also very smooth to the touch, and I really like that detail. It's nice. Clip. Definitely has spring to it. Doesn't bend out of shape, and I was pretty harsh on that just now. Works well. On the center band, right there is some writing. It says Xezo Maestro LeGrand, and then it says number 202 and 2017. Was 2017 special edition. This is number 202 of 235. Barrel. You see that Greek key there. You also see it at the bottom there, and you see the shape of the barrel, which I kind of like. I'll come back to that in 1 sec. And then at the end here you have threads to post the pen, and the rest is just a black end cap. I kind of like the shape of this pen. It has a slightly bulbous shape in the barrel and also in the cap, and that, to me, that sort of wavy pattern, I've always liked that in a pen. I enjoy the shape. Cap unscrews. Doesn't require a whole lot of turns, but there are a few involved, so I know that some people really only like 1 turn. It's more than that. Section, shiny, black. I thought it was plastic, but actually that could be a brass piece, but I thought it was plastic. I could be wrong. Number 6, nib, which is laser engraved with the Xezo logo. As I said, standard nib on these pens is fine, but you can request a medium if you want. That's all the options. There is no broad or italics or anything along those lines. Plastic feed, simple, works. And as I said, out of the box, the nib writes. It wrote straight away. It does give some feedback, that's for sure. But it is a fine nib. It definitely is I would say, a real fine. It definitely is a fine line, and that's pretty much all I have to say about that. As to the pen, I think it's a reasonable size. It is brass. It is heavy. You definitely feel that as you hold it. Fits well in the hand. The section, I personally, it's one of those that sort of tapers down and flares out a little bit. I found it a little on the thin side, but I still found it comfortable to hold. So for me, this is a comfortable pen. Now, you have these threads in the back. The cap screws on for posting, and then you definitely have a larger pen. But one thing that I really enjoyed is that as you post it, the clip and the nib align. I think I over-tightened it a little bit there, but if you just let it end where it naturally ends, they align pretty well. And I always think that is nice. I like it. It's eye for detail when that lines up and it's not like this as you write. It's just a very small thing, but it's a detail, and you know, for me that works. That's important. So, reasonably sized pen, pretty heavy, especially when you post it. It becomes a bit top heavy, but I'll come back to that in what I like and don't like about it. So there you have it. Okay, what do I like about the pen? Well, there's a couple of things I actually like. This one I like better than the previous model I reviewed for just idiosyncratic reasons. I just like this model and I like this finish a bit better than the black finish of the previous pen. That's just a personal opinion. But I think it's quite nice. The blue is nice, and the actual engraving is pretty cool, because from a distance you don't really see it, but once you get up close, it's always a little difficult to show it on camera and capture it well in the light, but you can definitely see it, which I think is neat. So I like that. It's a solid pen. I mean that in the literal sense of the word. Being all brass and all that, it definitely weighs quite a bit. So people who like heavier pens, I think, will really enjoy this. It has a comfortable section, as I said, maybe a bit thin for me personally, and yet I still find it very comfortable. So that means it's well shaped, I think. That's nice. The nib is a bit feedbacky, but it writes well. Good, solid line. No, it hasn't run dry on me, so I think that's definitely great too. And I do really like that you get a very complete set when you buy this pen. The box is cute. I don't really care a lot for pen boxes, but it is nice that it opens up. But the whole package, 5 cartridges, polish and cloth with the pen, I think that's a pretty neat set. So that's all cool. What do I not like about it so much? There's a couple of things. One is, it's a heavier pen. I kind of like heavy pens, but I can see how for some people this might be a bit much, although it's not excessively heavy, but the brass just weighs something. It's just the way it is. Connected to that is the fact that it posts by screwing the cap in place in a way that's very secure. So there are people who post every single pen they use. They love writing that way. Then it's great, because the cap will not fall off. That's a very solid connection. But being a brass cap and a brass barrel, this definitely tilts back. It's definitely heavy. So I don't know if I would necessarily have put threads on there to really encourage posting, given how heavy the pen is. And I don't have the world's smallest hand, so I can see that if you have maybe some hands on the smaller end of the spectrum, that may be too much for you. It is cool to the clip line, so with the nib, I do like that. The final thing I wanted to say was Maestro LeGrand. Of course, any company is free in how they name their pens, but the Montblanc pens are named Meisterstück, which means masterpiece. Maestro means master, and the Montblanc 146 is also known as the LeGrand. In fact, I think that's how they are trying to label the pen now. So I don't know if Maestro LeGrand, very simply from a copyright perspective, is the most optimal name, but that's not up to me to decide. I mean, of course, as I said, any company is free to name any pen any way they like. And one thing I will say is, very, very obviously, this is not a Montblanc lookalike. It's just a very different pen. The shape of the pen is not the classic cigar shape. It's not a piston filler. It's not black. So I don't think this is really an enormous matter. It's just something that I noticed as I was going through my notes to review it, so to speak. One of my thoughts. Final thing, what you want to know is the price, and that is an interesting point of discussion. It's $170, so 170. $170. What does it get you? A brass pen, so metal pen, solid pen, complete package, limited edition, hand lacquer. I see that would all cost something. You do get a steel nib. There are definitely pens in this segment that have gold nibs. I mean solid gold nibs. So in that regard, maybe this pen will be more attractive to some people if it would be a gold nib. What I will say about it is, as steel nibs go, I think this is a pretty nice nib. So for me, it's not a deal breaker. It would not be a deal breaker. But some people really like gold and would like to see a gold nib on it. And I kind of see it. At this price, you kind of get to the balance of should it or should it not be gold? So that's another thing to consider. Now, having said all of this, having droned on almost endlessly, I think it is time for us to see how the pen writes. That's what's coming up next. A kind thank you to Xezo for sending me the pen to review. I appreciate that. Measurements of the pen will be on the website, sbrebrown.com, as well as high-resolution pictures, as always taken by the inimitable Gourmet Pens. Hope this was useful so far, and I'm glad to see you later. Bye-bye. Okay, so here we go with the Xezo Maestro LeGrand. The nib is fine, and the ink is Waterman Mysterious Blue. Okay, let's do some normal writing. There definitely is feedback. There's no doubt there. This is a feedbacky nib. I don't find it scratchy, but there is feedback. But what I will say is the ink flow is pretty good, because it really does keep up with this, so that's very nice. The wetness of the pen, it's not a gusher. Line variation, definitely is some. Now, what I should point out, when I do this, there was a fairly panicky thread on FPN at some point about how I destroy nibs by doing this. I've never destroyed a nib doing this. Now, what I will say is you have to be a little careful. I'm not pushing this nib so far that it is sprung. The tines open up like that, okay? I'm exerting a little bit of pressure. Now, it's possible that I may have given the impression that I'm hammering down on this nib so as to squeeze out as much line variation as I can. I don't. So this is a little bit of pressure, all right? Now, if you're completely new to fountain pens, or you're not sure if your nib can do this, you probably shouldn't do this. This is not a nib that's advertised as being a flex nib, so it's not meant to be flexed. All I'm doing is exerting a tiny bit of pressure as I write, and that's all there's to it. So people, no reason to panic. Another thing that we want to do is some, I think someone recently suggested the term inverse nib writing. So we have regular writing, and then we have reverse writing, or inverse nib writing, if you prefer that. You see it definitely runs dry. It is actually not super scratchy. We already have a fine nib in hand though, so it's not going to be a whole lot finer, but you probably go from a fine to an extra fine. And that's all there's to it. So, Xezo, thank you kindly for sending me this nib. I appreciate it. I hope this was useful. I mean, sending me the pen, not just the nib. I hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye-bye. Bye.